Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. Today I find myself in San Jose, Costa Rica. It's a beautiful morning out here. This, I think, is more the rainy season. So as I flew in yesterday, I flew into a cloudy day, and then on the ride over to where I'm staying, I mean, it poured. Even on the highway, it was. Went through one area where it was almost like driving through a lake to get here. But I'm here, and as you see, the rain yesterday opened up to a beautiful morning today to enjoy. I spent the last few weeks in Mexico, in Chapala and Guadalajara, attending the wedding of two of my close friends, and getting to meet and interact with a lot of new folks. It was an incredible experience, and I very much am grateful for that experience. What we're going to talk about today, it comes out of that experience, and it is about vulnerability. I think when we talk about vulnerability, it can be easier when you meet people and you know people, and let's say you've got a friend group that you've known for a while. It's much easier to be in a space of vulnerability with those folks because it becomes a safe space, a space where there's already some knowns. You know them and better understand them and how they work and react, as well as there's more safety there for you as well, because the connection is something that's familiar and you understand. They know you for who you are and accept you for who you are. So, in those spaces, vulnerability becomes a much more comfortable place. But what we're going to talk about today is vulnerability external, meaning vulnerability with folks that you don't know, vulnerability with people around you who are not aware of who you are, and how that can, in some ways, change kind of how you view things. Now, when I say that, it's easy to talk about just being your truest self all the time, and that's what I am and who I am. However, what I've noticed in self is that because I am my truest self, I generally, when I'm meeting new people, I'll engage based on the level of depth that I feel like I'm being engaged with, meaning I don't overly force myself onto someone. I wait to see kind of how that person approaches conversations and interactions before I kind of just fully engage in who I am. Now, when I say that, never do I wear a mask anymore. It's more of what am I allowing them? What am I allowing them in to see, or how deep? That probably is the best way to describe that. How deep am I willing to allow someone in when I don't know them? That is still a form of safety, but it does at least allow me to be my most authentic self without creating a space that for me or them that can become uncomfortable quickly. However, the universe projected a lot to me in these interactions in amazing ways, and I think it's something that bears discussion, because I think in society, whether we intend to or not, I think we create a false mask or false images to project to other people. And then as we project those other people, what happens is then as we get to know them, we slowly let them in. It almost feels like maybe still that remnants of ego that is trying to protect us and protect self, as if there is something to fear or something that's still a threat around us. And, maybe in our far distant past, that was an important thing. But as we begin to evolve and we begin to understand that, nothing around you is unsafe. You are reflecting back to self, and you are in a place where the hologram is projecting to you self. So when you understand that better, you understand that even in your most vulnerable moments, even in those spaces where you are opening yourself up to others, the fear of rejection from others is really your fear of rejection from self. And the more that you truly just open up and accept self, it allows the understanding that even if you run into a being that is not a reflection but more a projection, to understand that the rejection isn't the rejection of you, it potentially is just the rejection of themselves. You see, on this journey, I am convinced we are all connected. To me, there is no question around that. There is no doubt in that. And the more I walk this path, I see that reflection of me. I see those folks around me of people who where I've come from on my journey, and in some places where I am on my journey, as well as potentially I'm headed on my journey. And in that instance of being able to better understand that and accept that, it allows me to see that that everything that is projected around me is my journey, whether that comes from the internal or the external. So the aspect of vulnerability, suddenly then, it's almost like an enlightenment in essence, or a momentary awakening maybe is a better way to project it. Because what happens is when you accept that in self, then you are willing to just come straight out and just be you, without any fear of how the other being is going to react, or other beings are going to react. I feel like I got this really demonstrated to me during the wedding, because there were folks that I met that are amazing people, but moments during the wedding I was struggling to connect. And I was struggling to connect because it felt like there was a void there, and I didn't understand what the void was. And as we progress in our time together, I had the opportunity to kind of sit down more one-on-one with a couple of those folks, and really just kind of speak my heart, speak my truth. And that moment that I just unleashed my vulnerability of my essence of myself, even though at the time it seemed like it was a little bit scary almost, that is when there was no void. The gap was overcome, and true connection was able to happen. You see, I find it for self easier to connect with those who feel that connection to source, to the all, whatever that connection, whatever they may call that connection. Sometimes that's easier to connect because that's where I'm at. Sometimes when folks are connecting in different ways, to the universe, that connection seems unfamiliar, and because that connection seems unfamiliar, there automatically feels like there's not a place for us to begin, if that makes sense. And these interactions that I had over this last couple of weeks were I mean, incredible experiences to help me on my path and to enlighten me. Because being vulnerable on a surface level with people is very, very easy. But as you're getting to know people on a deeper level, it really forces you to step out of any block of describing your journey without expectation of return, if that makes sense. Meaning, when you meet someone, if you're willing to go to the depth and explain where you're at, they may not describe themselves in depth as a return, because maybe they're still wearing the mask, or maybe they still have fears that they're experiencing. But the value for self is to overcome the fear for self and be the one to step out and be the one to share your truth and be the one to share your vulnerability, regardless of how it may be perceived, because that is truly the way that souls can connect. And if you're unwilling to do that, what generally occurs is you'll find yourself in a position where you'll just, even potentially feel like an outsider, feel like you're not connecting, because really with that thought of protecting self and not being vulnerable, you're the key piece that is creating or maintaining a distance or a void. And in order to overcome that, it is to have that courage to speak, talk, act, and communicate in that true vulnerable self that you are in all of those moments where it is clear that connection is desired and connection can be made, but it's almost as if the onus is on you to choose that path. So what say you? How do you feel about vulnerability? Do you feel like it's something that comes easily to you? As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am grateful. Until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. Hope you have the most amazing day.